Hello everyone, David King here. So today is my second devlog for the Beast project, and today I've kind of released my first finished feature. And what I mean by released is it works on my phone and I can use it. So it's not actually in the App Store yet, but I'm okay with that. So this first feature is, you can see up here on my home screen, I've got basically 3 links to Shuffle's workout screens. And the way these work is I have a library of exercises and I shuffle them with some additional logic in there to make sure that they're well balanced, or they flow nicely together. And then once they've been generated, they appear on the screen, on the main workout screen. And I've also added in a little raw sound because after all it is the Beast. So like I say, this is my first kind of finished feature. I've been using the core and skipping workouts every day for about a week. So I'm just going to walk through the code now and then talk about what I'm doing next. So probably the more interesting piece of code here is the core shuffle. So this is very, very heavily based on an article by Jeff Cavalier of Athlean X. Actually, I'll just pull that up on the screen here. So he calls this his perfect core workout, and basically he looks at the functions of these different muscles. So we've got these 4 different muscles, but actually 6 different movements. And so he recommends that you perform exercises in a very given sequence to make sure you're getting a well-balanced workout. And he talks a lot about this. It is a very, very good article, worth reading. And so you can see he starts with here we go. He starts with bottom-up movements, and then onto bottom-up rotation, and then obliques, and then more exercises for those other muscle groups. So what I've done is I've taken that on board to create this core shuffle workout. Now, actually, before I get into that, I'm just going to show you the basics of the data modeling here. So I've actually got two primary models. The workout model, which essentially is just a list of exercises with a title and a type. And the exercise itself has a few things. So title, optional tempo, duration, direction. So direction could be left and right, or clockwise, anti-clockwise, and then the sound. So there's my role. And so basically my workout generators, to give them name on the spot, all these need to do is return a workout model. So I've got a few different ones you can see here. I've got burpee shuffle, core shuffle, skipping shuffle, and some little experiments that have failed. So in this, I've got some settings that I've just hard coded for now, but they will be read in probably from a settings screen. And then I've got some data here as well. So I've just compiled this from reading a lot of Athlean X articles, and I mean a lot of Athlean X articles. And so you can see here, I've got title, which equipment it uses, which muscle groups it hits, and also the difficulty with different times. So for example, iso reverse crunches for 30 seconds is very easy. At 60 seconds is a little bit harder. So what I do in my logic here, I'm basically saying I want 6 exercises to hit these different muscle groups, and I want them to appear in that order. I begin by creating a workout model, and then I pass all of my core exercises. So these are my core exercises list here. And the reason I've got this as a map is my assumption is that this will be loaded via an AJAX call, or rather an HTTP call. So this will be JSON data. So that's why I'm using it as a map rather than a properly defined model. So what I do here is first thing I do is I say, with this equipment and this difficulty levels, which of these exercises are valid. So for example, in my settings here, I've got difficulty levels 2 and 3, and I'm allowing equipment body weight and bands. So here, iso reverse crunches at 30 seconds is not valid because that's a difficulty of 1, but at 60 seconds it is because that's 2. Hanging X raises at 30 seconds is valid, but not at 60. So you can see I basically need to pass through this list to come up with basically a valid list of exercises that I could do. And then the next thing I do after that, which is pretty straightforward, is just to shuffle that list because it wants to be random. And then the first thing I do once I've got all that data, basically that's all prep work really, is I loop through my muscles. You can see here, loop through my muscles in order. That is this list here. And I basically assign an exercise for that muscle. So if you assume that this list of valid workouts here, what I do is I just I loop through that in order and basically find the first exercise that will hit that muscle. Obviously, I know that it's going to use the correct equipment and the correct difficulty. So once I've done that, then I've then got my, in this case, I've got 6 workouts, or rather 6 exercises that are in the correct order and everything is valid. However, I don't know that the duration is correct yet. So the other thing I've got here is I expect the duration to be 6 minutes. Okay, so the thing to consider here is, what if I pull out a whole load of 60 seconds seated ab circles, right? And so if I do that, it's because it's unilateral, so there's a left component and a right component. This is actually 2 minutes long. So if I come up with a whole load of these 60-second unilateral exercises, then that's going to be 12 minutes long because there's 6 workouts. So the next thing I need to do is then I basically just say, while true, make some adjustments. So what I'm doing is I'm just saying, okay, how far away from the expected duration are we? Eventually, that will hit 0, and I will break out of this loop. And then all I do is I make an adjustment here. So I loop through all those muscles again. I try and swap out an exercise if it makes the diff smaller. Actually, I say smaller or equal to. And the reason I do that is it's a bit complicated, but sometimes it's worth swapping a 30-second workout for another 30-second workout because it could have different muscle groups. So actually, these exercises, quite often, these are lower abs, but also bottom-up rotation. So you might be swapping out something that uses a lot more to something that uses less muscles, and that frees this one up for a further iteration. And then eventually, that will come up with the correct diff, and we're rocking. But there is a little bailout here. So I'm just saying, if you can't do it in 50 iterations, just quit. And then after that, I then convert my map, because these are maps, into proper exercise models. And then I add in my rests as well and return that workout. So the end result is basically this. So I can go to here and I'm going to see that, well, there's my raw, that I've got lower abdominal work, bottom up rotation, then I expect a rest. Okay, there's a rest. Obliques, so left and right. Mid-range, this is V-ups, then another rest. Top-down rotation, and then just regular top-down. And then after that, the workout is complete. And so the logic here, I mean, it's quite long, I had 164 lines, but I think actually this is pretty easy to follow. And one of the lovely, lovely things about Dart and any typed language really is you get this sort of knowledge of the data structures that are being returned. So here I'm basically saying, like, when you call this method, you're going to get a workout. So it kind of doesn't matter what happens in here. It can be a black box. And so there are other shuffles that you might want fundamentally different logic. So I could, and I probably will actually in the future, create some abstraction of the logic here. So for example, at the end here, when I'm assigning rests, basically I assign rests every 2 exercises. So one exercise, another exercise, then a rest. But for something else, that might be based on the duration that's elapsed to that point. So, whether I can, use common logic there for that is to be seen. But what I'm going to do is build up a number of different shuffle logics and then just have a sit down and think about it and try and refactor those to simplify them into something that can be reused elsewhere. So, like I said at the start of the video, this is kind of the first feature that is usable. It's been really fun because obviously over the Christmas period, there's been a lot more downtime, and it's given me the opportunity to really sort think about the priority that I'm giving to all of these different features in this app. And obviously the ultimate goal for Beast is to create something that is a bit more involved than your typical tutorials that you find online. In that it's going to be quite a big project. It's going to have lots of state management. It's going to have lots of different features, and once I'm quite happy with that, I'm going to open source it. And the reason I'm not open sourcing it from the get-go is that I don't want to introduce bad practices to the wider community, because if this gains popularity and I've done something that is just stupid, I'll be kicking myself. There are projects out there that are guilty of that. I'll not name any names, where some paradigms and practices that are best in quite uncommon use cases have become the norm. So that's not my intention here. So I think next up, I've got, you can see I've broken it up just for my own references. I've got this Trello board with like a hell of a lot of features on here. Release will probably sit somewhere in the middle. And I mean release to the wider community as well as to the App Store. But next up, I'm just looking at this customizing a workout. So here I've got, basically you can select between little fragments and you can build up a workout. So for example, I might have skipping at the beginning to get your body temperature up, and then a few 3 sets of 12, and then a core workout at the end. And so this list, it would allow you to swap out exercise variants or training styles. And then after that, beyond that, we've got recipes. I'm not going to go into that right now because it's super cool. It's too cool to talk about. And a few of my sort of daily habits as well. So that's just a simple check exercise. Have you stretched today? Have you drunk enough water? Have you had your creatine? And then I've considered adding in a gratitude log because it's something I quite enjoy in my personal time as well. And really, this app is kind of David King in an app form, which is quite amusing. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I hope you've all had a fantastic winter period. And as usual, comments, messages, and so on and so forth are all available for replying to. And if you want more code, please go to github.com/udavid/Flutterby, and you can see the source code for my various other videos. Obviously, there's only 7 so far, but I'm going to continue adding to this every time we do a video. And please just star the repo, add any issues if you've got questions, and obviously YouTube comments are great as well. Okay, take care everyone. Toodaloo.